today I have 3 different types of sugar cookies that I want to try out this year. Actually, one of them is my tried and true, my go-to for all sugar cookies. And then I recently discovered that I have a little bit of an intolerance to gluten. So I wanted to try out a gluten-free recipe. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. I found it on Pinterest. And then also I have been asked by a few people if I do sugar-free. So I'm also going to try that with the cream cheese frosting. And I figured I'd take you guys along with me today. I just want to let you guys know that this is a laid-back channel. I'm just a stay-at-home mom, and I just like to share some of my findings with you, so that's what we're going to do today. Let's go ahead and get started on my very own recipe. This is the recipe I've been using for years. I also found it on Pinterest as well, but I couldn't even tell you where to find it because it's so old and it's locked up here in memory that I couldn't tell you which recipe or where to find it. I have posted it on my channel before, but it's something that people are constantly asking for, so I figured I'd include it in this video. So to start off, we need 5 cups of flour. To that, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. You don't need anything else in here. You could add a little bit of salt, but because these sugar cookies don't have too much sugar in them, they're not too overly sweet. We're gonna add 2 pounds or 4 sticks of butter. I like to use margarine, but you can use butter if you want to. We're gonna mix this up really good until it's nice and creamy, and I'm just using my regular paddle attachment. I'm gonna add 2 cups of sugar to this, and you're just gonna mix it up until it's nice and fluffy. I'm just gonna scrape the sides of the bowl to get all of the sugar and the butter mixed together, because you really want your butter and your sugar mixture to be nice and fluffy. So this can take up to 5 minutes. You just want to make sure that it's really, really fluffy. And you're gonna do this on medium speed. We're gonna add 2 eggs into this. And I like to crack my eggs into a smaller bowl so that you don't get any shell on the inside of your cookies. We're gonna combine it in there one at a time. You wanna make sure that each egg is combined before adding the next. On low speed. One of the things that I really like about this cookie dough is that it's nearly impossible to fail. So it's super easy to make, and it makes a ton of cookies. This one batch can make anywhere between 3 to 5 dozen cookies depending on how big your cookies are. Now that our mixture is completely combined and all the eggs are mixed in, I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons or 2 capfuls of vanilla extract. I'm only going to put in 1 small capful of almond extract. Okay, so that texture is looking really good. Now we're gonna start adding in our flour 1 cup at a time and on really low speed. And you're just gonna mix this until the flour is almost combined. So our dough is done. I just want to take it out of here, and I'm going to knead it a few times, and then we're going to wrap it in some saran wrap and let it sit in the fridge for at least 30 minutes. But I do recommend that you do put this in the refrigerator overnight. So you want to heavily flour your surface here. The firmer your dough is, the easier it is for it to not stick to your surface and to cut out, and it makes it easier to bake up because it'll rise better that way if it's nice and cold. I could tell that this mixture is perfect. For the next recipe that we're gonna do, I'm gonna try this sugar-free cookie recipe that I found on Pinterest. It has about 4¼ stars, so hopefully it's really good. I'll link it down below if you guys are interested in the recipe itself. So we're gonna need 3 sticks of butter or 1½ cups of butter, 4 ounces of cream cheese, 1½ cups of Truvia or any kind of sugar-free blend, 1 teaspoon of almond extract, 2 egg yolks, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 3 cups of flour. Even though there's salt in my margarine, I'm still gonna put some salt in here because I think that it needs it. And just like in the other recipe, we're gonna blend up the cream cheese and the butter until it's nice and creamy. So I'm gonna add the Truvia sugar blend and blend this up for a couple more minutes until it's nice and fluffy, just like you would in my regular sugar cookie recipe. Okay, so I want to say that looks about right, and it says actually to add some vanilla, and it says only add 1 teaspoon, and it says to use a ½ teaspoon of almond. Mix that up, and then add in both of your egg yolks. Okay, now it says to add in your flour and salt gradually, a little bit at a time. So we're gonna do that just like I did with the other recipe. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, so here's what it says in the recipe. It says to divide the dough into 3 pieces, press each piece into a disc about 1 inch thick, and then wrap well with plastic wrap and refrigerate for 1 hour or up to 48 hours. What I normally do with my dough, if I'm gonna not use it for a while, for more than 2 days, I'll put it in the freezer. So I think you can freeze this. I'm gonna add some flour to my surface, and I'm gonna knead it a little bit. I know that it doesn't say to do that, but I'm gonna do that anyway. So this recipe does have a lot of butter and the added cream cheese to it, so I can assume that's why it's softer. And then I'm gonna clean up my surface really good because the next recipe we're gonna do is gluten-free, and you don't wanna have any remnants of any all-purpose flour or white flour of any kind in your gluten-free cookies, otherwise it can contaminate it. But I am gonna be sharing these cookies with a friend of mine, and she's more sensitive to gluten than I am, so I wanna make sure that there's absolutely no traces of gluten in here. The last sugar cookie recipe that we're going to try is this gluten-free sugar cookie. I also found this one on Pinterest. I will link it down below as well for you guys in case you want to try it. And we're starting off with 2½ sticks of butter. We got 3 cups of 1:1 baking flour. I'm using the Bob's Red Mill, the gluten-free. We also have 1 cup of sugar, 1½ teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 egg and 1 egg yolk, and 1½ teaspoons of baking powder. Like all the other recipes, we're going to beat this butter until it's nice and fluffy. And she specifically said to do this in a hand mixer, so we're going to do it in a hand mixer instead of my stand mixer. So now we're going to add in the egg yolk, and some vanilla. 1 cap is 1 teaspoon. So let's mix that all together. Oh man, you know what? I messed up, but we're going to do this anyway. We're just going to add in the sugar. You're supposed to add the sugar in and then add your egg and your vanilla, but there's no gluten in here, so I can't see why it would mess up. So it says to add in half of the flour mixture to the butter mixture and gently mix. So not using the hand mixer, I'm just going to put half of this in there, and we're going to gently fold it in. So this one says that you don't have to refrigerate it. You can just roll it out and start baking it if you wanted to. But I want to refrigerate it because I have all my other ones refrigerating. So I'm going to mix this by hand now. Guys, guess what I did? And you probably already caught it before I did. I was cleaning up and I realized that I did not put baking powder in my gluten-free cookies. I did realize in the sugar-free cookies that it didn't call for baking powder. And I looked it up on Google and it says you can mix it in or leave it out, that it might not change the recipe. But now I'm wondering, because in my regular recipes, I do put baking powder in there and it does help it rise a little bit, not a whole lot, but I'm wondering if it's gonna change the texture of my cookie. So question is, do I leave it out or do I try to mix it back in? If I try to mix it into my dough, I'm worried that it won't like be spread out through the entire recipe. So I don't know what to do. Look, we're just gonna go ahead and go with it. We're gonna try it and see what happens. And if it doesn't come out, it doesn't come out, and I'll redo the recipe. It's that simple. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. How could I forget the baking powder? So I wanted to try making the sugar-free cream cheese frosting to go with my sugar-free cookies, but I don't have the confectioner sugar of Truvia. I only have the regular Truvia. And I did try using the Truvia, and the texture is really gritty and really gross. So I'm going to show you how I salvaged this recipe and how I used the regular Truvia sugar to make this cream cheese icing. Just like the recipe says, in a medium mixing bowl, I beat the cream cheese, but I used my hand mixer instead of a rubber spatula until it was smooth, and then I added my milk, my Truvia sugar, vanilla extract, and the salt, and then I just continued to mix that until it was well combined, and then I added in my butter and my lemon juice. At this point, the mixture is going to be really gritty and it's not going to look right and it's not going to taste well at all. I want to see if maybe blending it in here will help tone down the grittiness in the icing. And I'm going to try and add a little bit more salt to tone down the sweetness a little bit. Now it just looks like a smoothie. Let me see. Oh no. Okay, so it definitely toned down the grittiness. I have one more idea that might help with the runniness of this. I do want to give it another pass in the Ninja Bullet, and I want to add in some clear gel and see if that helps thicken it up a little bit. Okay, so I have some of this instant clear gel pie thickener from King Arthur's Baking Company. I got this off Amazon. Sorry about my phone. It's Christmas time, so a lot of people are asking me what the kids want for Christmas. So I'm going to start off with 1 tablespoon of clear gel and see if that helps. I can tell that it's thickened a little bit, so let's add in another tablespoon. If this doesn't work, I might just soften up some more cream cheese and add cream cheese into this and see if that helps. Let's pulse it again. So it still looks pretty thin. Okay, so the grittiness is still there, but I can actually taste the cream cheese surprisingly in there. I mean, you could drizzle this onto your cookie or dip your cookie into it like a glaze, but I want to pipe this onto my cookie. So I think I'm going to soften up some cream cheese and put more cream cheese in there. That looks a lot better. Look at the texture on this. A lot better. Look at that. Let's taste it. That tastes a lot more like cream cheese.
Yeah!
I got a taste tester here. My roommate is going to taste it. It looks different, right? It has a different consistency. Yeah. Still has that sweetener taste, like aftertaste to it, but it has a little bit more cream cheese to it. So what do you think? Like, should I add in the other half of the cream cheese? Or you think that if I add that, it might be too thick?
I think it's good like that.
It's good like this? Michelle did tell me off camera that it tasted like a red velvet icing to a red velvet cupcake. It tastes very similar, only it's sugar-free. Maybe you might like this. And if you guys try this recipe, let me know what you guys think. This is a Christmas tea and a star. Oh, maybe we should go with this treat. It's a little tiny bit. Okay, we got 3 different types of cookie dough recipes, so maybe we'll go with 3 shapes. All right, that's perfect. Okay, so we're gonna start with my gluten-free dough. And since you guys like seeing people cutting out their cookie shapes, I figured I would do that with you guys today too. And I am going to be baking these off in my countertop oven. I'm going to go ahead and start rolling out my dough. I'm going to put some flour on my surface, just some gluten-free flour.
made the holidays such a stressful affair. Ain't got no time to take it slow. Well, I talked to Santa Claus, and he gave us one private evening under the old mistletoe. Oh, for we hear those reindeers walking, and all our relatives won't stop talking. I got business with you. Only present that I really need is to cozy up beside the Christmas tree with you on our Christmas for two. Phones are always ringing, why don't we put them away? I wanna only be right here. Merry Christmas, baby, why don't we see if we can have the most wonderful night of the year? Oh, for we hear those reindeers walking, and all our relatives won't stop talking. I got business with you. Only present that I really need is to cozy up beside the Christmas tree with you on our Christmas for two. The shining lights, the merry people everywhere help make the season bright. But tonight, darling, you own my darling, with those Christmas lights down low. The sleigh ride, darling, can't wait, darling, but those stockings have got to go. For we hear those reindeers walking, and all our relatives won't stop talking. I got business with you. Only present that I really need is to cozy up beside the Christmas tree with you on our Christmas for two.
Showing you the differences in the textures and stuff on the cookies itself, I want to take a look at the dough and show you my findings on each dough, which I should have done this yesterday, but I didn't think about it. But I want to do that first to give you an idea of the different textures of each one of these recipes. So let's take a good look at it. So we could see that it's really nice and soft and pliable. When you try to pull it apart, it has give to it. And the inside of the dough has a lot of good texture to it. It's really nice and soft, and it's really easy to mold into whatever shape you want it to mold into, and it doesn't fall apart. And the glutens is what gives it a really nice and fluffy texture. And did you know that they actually sell gluten flour? I didn't. I was at the grocery store yesterday or the other day trying to pick out gluten-free flour, and I almost picked up gluten flour thinking it was gluten-free. So I looked it up, and gluten flour is used to add into recipes or to add extra gluten in it so that you can make more of a tougher bread like a bagel or a pretzel or even sometimes pizza dough. But let's go ahead and take a look at the sugar-free dough. Okay, so even without taking it out of the package, I could tell that the dough itself is a little bit more softer. And I think it's because there's a lot of butter in there. See how it just melts in It still has that texture where it kind of like springs back or has give to it, but it's much more stickier. It has like air pockets in it, but it's still easy for us to roll it out. It's still easy for us to shape. It's still easy to cut out. Now let's take a look at the gluten-free, but I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick because I don't want to contaminate my dough. Okay, so I have my gluten-free dough here, and before I even take it out of the package, it's very firm, but it's a lot more tough and it breaks apart a lot more easier. So usually with gluten-free, the dough tends to be a little bit more on the dry side, and it just bakes up a little bit different. So I could tell just in the recipe alone that when I go to eat it, it's gonna have a little bit of a dry texture. But you know what? I really, so far, even though I didn't put the baking powder in here, I still feel like it has a good enough texture for me to roll it out. It just doesn't have any spring back. There's no stickiness, there's no spring back, there's no nothing. So it's just gonna be a little bit more of a dense cookie. Okay, so just to be fair, I wanted to try these cookies without anything on them, just to get a full experience on how it would taste without any icing. And as I could say to the touch, it has a very nice soft texture. I didn't bake them until they were golden brown because I was afraid that they might overbake. They're really easy to cut out, they're really easy to roll out, and they hold its shape very well. So let's see what happens when we pull it apart. Okay, so when we pull it apart, it still has a good doughy texture. It looks nice and soft. Let's give it a taste. It does take a minute for it to like dissolve in your mouth a little bit, but it's very soft, and I do like that it has a soft texture. I think that's really important in a cookie. Tell me what you think. She's shy. They're not bad, right? They have a good texture to them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they kind of taste a little grainy, a little bit. And chalky, just a tad bit. But I wonder if you put icing on them, if maybe it would like change the taste of it. Yeah. But it's not a bad cookie. They're not bad at all. Okay, so the next sugar cookie I have is the sugar-free cookie. And as you can see, it has like little ripples in it, or air bubbles or air pockets in there. I don't know if you could tell on camera. Maybe right there. Let's give this a taste. It's soft. It has a good texture on the inside. These kind of look like store-bought cookies. Like if you were to buy them off the shelf and bake them up, they kind of have that texture to them. These are good.
Which ones are these?
These are the sugar-free. These taste almost exactly like the ones that you get off the shelf, the regular sugar cookies that you get from a package and you bake them up yourself. And you can't taste the artificial sugar in them. I like that. Which one do you like better, the gluten-free or the sugar-free?
Maybe this one.
The sugar-free one? Yeah, me too. They have a really good flavor. I'm very curious to see what these are gonna taste like once we put that sugar-free icing on top. And then lastly, we have our regular gluten-y sugar cookie that I swear by. These are the best sugar cookies ever if you don't have a gluten intolerance or sensitivity to them, and it breaks like an actual cookie. It's still soft, but it's very buttery and flaky. Got a really good crunch to it from the bottom. Really good. I do have to say that these sugar cookies look exactly like the ones from the picture. And even without the leavening agent, the baking powder in them, they still came out great. So just so you know, you don't have to put baking powder in these cookies, but if you want to add it, go ahead. The only thing it's going to do is maybe puff it up a little bit more. But I kind of like that it has a flatter surface anyway, because that way when you decorate them, they're going to be nice and smooth and soft for you. I do have an icing that I want to make because I have 3 egg whites left over from the recipes that we did. So I'm going to use those egg whites to make a royal icing for my regular cookies and the gluten-free cookies, and then we're going to try the sugar-free icing on the sugar-free cookies. I'm going to go ahead and start on that and then get to icing these cookies, and then we'll taste test them again. Alright, so it's actually been several hours. I decorated these cookies earlier this afternoon and I let them completely set so that we could taste test them. So I'm going to start on the gluten-free ones, but I don't want to make this decision on my own, so I'm going to bring on a couple of guests of mine, if you don't mind, ladies. You guys have met Wendy before.
Hi.
This is my best friend that I've known since forever. And this is Crystal. She's my really good friend. She's actually the one that is gluten-free. She's kind of inspired me a little bit. So we're all gonna share, but first we're gonna grab some wine for palate cleansers. Wendy, go ahead and try the gluten-free one and tell me what you think. They're actually not bad, in my opinion.
Okay, it's a lot softer than I thought it was gonna be.
You thought it was gonna be harder, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's non-gluten-y.
It's not. Okay, so the thing you gotta, it's kind of like an acquired taste. You gotta get kind of used to like not having gluten in your diet because it tends to be more on the drier side.
It's kind of like sweet saltine cracker.
A sweet saltine cracker. Oh yeah, okay. You want to pick yours?
More sprinkles.
Okay. She wants all the icing. So this is your first time
This
trying
is my first time trying a
a gluten-free sugar cookie?
sugar cookie in general.
Oh really?
So I can't really compare it to
anything.
a real sugar
Oh, okay.
cookie, but I mean it's not completely dry. It just has that
Kind of chalkiness.
gluten-free a little bit because that's kind of what
Gluten-free is. Yeah.
But the icing totally makes up for it.
Right?
I
Yeah, it
think
does help.
If I were to have one of those with, less icing, maybe it'd be a little too chalky, but I think the coverage of the icing you have
It
here
helps.
makes up for
Yeah.
You know what it reminds me of? A protein bar.
Yeah, it kind of does taste like a protein bar, like
That's
a
what it
vanilla
reminds
cookie protein bar.
it. It's not bad though. I would eat them.
Yeah?
I would totally have like a cup of cocoa or your hot tea or something. I would eat them. I
Yeah?
think they're pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, so the next one is our sugar-free cookie, and this one actually has sugar-free cream cheese frosting on it. You're gonna taste this one too, right?
Yeah.
Who else wants to taste the sugar-free cookie?
The cookie expert.
You want to come?
The cookie monster.
Oh, Alan. No,
Yeah.
you don't.
You already got called out on the video.
Maybe we all.
Ramona, I know you like sugar free.
Oh, okay, here, you could try the sugar-free. So, I was really kind of worried about these ones, but I was actually pleasantly surprised with how well these actually tasted. What do you think? Good. You like it?
Mm-hmm.
Between these two, which one do you like better? This one, huh? Yeah.
I like my gluten.
You do, you do tend to like sweeter things though. So on the next cookies that we make that are sugar free, we'll just add more frosting to it. Yeah.
These are actually perfect because I get like sick after too much sugar. These are bomb.
I was worried because it has a chew to it. Like it still has that sticky chew. What I was worried about was the aftertaste of the aspartame, but it's like barely noticeable.
The aftertaste of this is better than
Yeah, I agree.
that one is very protein bar aftertaste. This one is more
Sugar
I had a
cookie.
cookie.
Yeah.
Even though they're protein-ish like, I want another one.
Awesome.
I think we are good.
Ramona,
Come on,
let's get a
Alan.
mint perspective on these cookies.
Alan.
This is sugar-free
Come
with cream
on.
cheese sugar-free icing.
That's cream cheese.
Your hand's not even in the picture in
Not
there.
having no gluten free.
No, the sugar-free ones are actually pretty good.
Yum yum.
Alright, you're such a cheater.
It's not in camera. They're good, huh?
These are real good.
Yeah, they're soft and chewy.
Um,
They don't taste too
They are
sugar-free.
No, these are
They're
delicious.
pretty good, huh? You liked it? Finish it.
And
Finish
these are
it.
with gluten without.
Huh?
These gluten free?
No, those are regular sugar-free. Yeah, those are sugar-free.
They're good.
We know that Alan doesn't want to taste the gluten. I ate that whole cookie.
I would, but
You want to try that one, huh?
Ready?
I'm just like munching down on my weight.
Why don't they say sprinkles?
Oh, cause what did you say about the
Oh,
icing
because
on the-
they're sugar-free. That's why the sprinkles have sugar in them. That's why I didn't put sugar or sprinkles in it.
So good.
Yeah. Do you think that you could eat a dozen of those cookies like you do regular cookies?
Oh,
You do? You think you could?
I think the bonus of this is
once the first
The kids
one goes
don't
down,
know
they
they're not
getting
they
the
go
sugar.
in the store.
the kids don't know.
That's true. You couldn't taste the difference, huh? No.
And if we want a healthy Santa,
Santa.
All right, let's try these
With
ones.
2% milk.
These ones are your guys' favorites because
Oh, this one's pretty.
I know that you're gonna want more frosting on them.
That's pretty good like this.
You like it?
It's very crunchy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a crunch to it.
Very buttery.
There's a crunch to it.
Is there a reason these are more
Not
crunchy
very.
than those?
So when I was looking at the dough is a lot stickier, so I'm wondering if that's why it has that chewiness to it. With those ones, it's made with real sugar. And the butter, and maybe the gluten in it. I'm not really sure why the recipes come out different, but
That's interesting.
I know, it is interesting.
These are crunchy, like these are like hard cookies, and those are more soft.
Do they taste just as good, the sugar-free with the regular? Because, I can't say.
With all these grooves in it, as they were baking up, the edges got rolled, like, cooked.
Brown.
Yeah. If I were to do something more like a Christmas tree, they would have been a little bit more softer. But they're still pretty good.
Okay, the middle is softer.
It is softer, okay?
I actually think after eating the second gluten-free cookie, it actually tasted better than the first.
Did it really?
To me,
Yeah?
I think it did. And it,
Well, the first one you got had all the icing on it.
yeah, and the second one had less icing, but I think it tastes actually better.
Better without all the icing on
Yeah.
it?
I do like the crunch of this one.
Yeah, I did a video on this one specifically if you want to watch it again. I also have another video from last year when I did Christmas baking. I have some tips in there, so I'll link that one in there as well for you guys if you want to get a more in-depth recipe to this sugar cookie recipe. But I think we're going to call it a day. We're going to get started on our charcuterie board over here, and we're going to enjoy the rest of our Friday night. Yeah, take the wine. We thank you guys so much for being here. Please don't forget to like, share, and all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time. Bye!